All right, good morning everyone. Thank you once again for joining us. It is another Monday and we are coming to you right at 11:38, a couple of minutes late, but we are here once again. And as I tell you, we come to you every Monday here at the African Leadership Group with a show, the ALG Weekly, and we bring you community leaders, community members. We bring you people who are doing great work within our community and people who have resources that our community can use, and we bring them to you so we can share those resources with you. And today, as I say every day, is just one of those days. We have another great guest today that will share the resources that they have with us today. And so thank you for joining us. Good morning to you and good morning to our guest. Good morning, Annette.
Amadou.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Congrats on your 30th show.
Thank you. Thank you. And that is episode number 30. So it's been a long while that we here every Monday. Celebratory. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Of course.
Thank you, and thank you for the coffee.
Well, of course.
I can't go without coffee.
You need your caramel latte. It's all the way over there.
So, for today, right, and if you're just joining us today, thank you once again for joining us. We are coming to you for the 30th episode of your ALG Weekly, and for all those 30 episodes, we have been bringing you community members to share with you their resources and everything. As we say here at the African Leadership Group, one of the things that we do is we meet community members at their needs, and so we know that some of you cannot make it to our events, some of you cannot come here to the office, and so this show is just another way of making sure that we get those resources, that you get the resources that you need, and that we are making those connections to bring those people and the resources to you. And we are doing that every Monday here. And today we have Annette. So before we get started, just for our community members and viewers who may not have heard about you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't expect any community members to have heard about me, so that's just fine. My name is Annette Kanoski-Graf, and I am lucky enough to be the Senior Program Manager of Teach Colorado.
Really?
Teach Colorado is a multi-sector effort designed to recruit teachers across the state of Colorado, and I am hopeful that some of you out there are interested in becoming a teacher. My goal is to provide you whatever help we can.
Great, great. And so I've read somewhere that you were an English teacher.
I was, yeah. I taught 9th and 10th grade world literature, classical literature, and English 1, and I did it in Little Haiti, Miami. With a student population that was largely either Haitian American or Black African American, and yeah, so
that must have not been easy teaching teenagers.
I mean, 9th and 10th graders are little weirdos. I absolutely love that age group. So I am hopeful that every day I can channel that passion that I had in the classroom into hopefully thousands of classrooms of teachers who will join the profession.
Great. And as you know here, education is one of the pillars that we actually have here at the African Leadership Group. So tell us a little bit about Teach for Colorado. I think Teach for Colorado has been to several African Leadership Group events in the past for community members and people who may not have heard of the organization. Tell us a little bit about the organization.
Sure, of course, and I'm so grateful to Papa Dia and to you, Amadou, for welcoming us on the show. Teach Colorado is relatively new. We only launched in August of 2019, and our website, which you can go to anytime, teachcolorado.org, launched about a year ago. A weird time to launch a program for sure, but we are a multi-sector effort, so we have all of the acronyms got together: the CDE, the Colorado Department of Education; CDHE, the Colorado Department of Higher Education; the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment. All of these government institutions, as well as several funders: Rose Community Foundation, Betcher Foundation, the Colorado Education Association. Everyone got together and said, wow, we have a real problem here. At the beginning of, for example, the 2019-2020 school year, we needed roughly 8,000 new teachers to be hired. We needed to hire those 8,000 teachers. Over 1,000 of those positions remained either unfilled for the entire school year, or they were filled using a shortage mechanism like hiring a long-term sub, which is ultimately not what you want for stability that any school community really relies on. So all of these groups got together and said, wow, we need to create a one-stop shop for anyone who wants to be a teacher in the state. And that is what teachcolorado.org is designed to be. It is designed to provide all the resources resources for free that community members might need as they explore teaching as a profession.
Well, that's amazing. That's just great.
The free part is extra great. Yeah, that's my favorite part.
The free part is amazing, and as you know, part of that work is the resources, but the other part is the access to it, right?
Yeah,
because sometimes we have those resources, but people who may not know and may not have access to those, and so I think that's part of why we have you here today, because part of that work is making sure that community members are actually getting access to those resources.
Oh, of course.
So tell us, now that we've learned a little bit about Teach Colorado, tell us about what you are a program manager, so tell us a little bit about your day-to-day work, because it could be
so
quite
fun.
hectic.
I do not end up on radio shows every day, though that would be kind of fun. I am lucky enough to be able to establish partnerships with all of the teacher preparation programs across the state. That's important because teachcolorado.org, our website, has profiles of every single teacher prep program in the state. So that's one thing that I do, is focus on those partnerships. We also have partnerships with school districts, and the reason behind those partnerships is we are actively trying to help school districts grow their own teachers. There might be a bus driver, a member of, I don't know, an office staff member, a current paraeducator, paraprofessional in the classroom who is, one step away from getting their teaching license and already knows that that is their passion, that they love working so closely with kids. So that's another thing that we do, is develop those partnerships. And then a lot of my time is really spent trying to make sure that I am out there in the world letting potential aspiring fabulous teachers know about our resources. And one of those resources, in my mind, that is the coolest, is our coaching service. So if you were to become a teacher tomorrow, Amadou, I'm going to work on that later. Let's say you decide I want to be a teacher. Based on your unique background, your education history, what your financial situation is, where you live, what you want to teach, we have coaches that are prepared to participate in a one-on-one advising session with you, either by phone or through email, whatever you're most comfortable with. Those coaches are current classroom educators who can also just tell you about what it's like in the classroom day to day. So I think our coaching is maybe the main thing that I spend my time doing, is making sure that we connect folks to our coaches.
Well, that's great, because sometimes there are a lot of things that you may want to do, and the only thing that's keeping you from it is just not knowing that one person.
Yes.
Right. That one person that could just calm the fear. That one person that could give you all the information that you need, but also show you how to do it.
And what you just said, Amadou, speaks perfectly to the importance of diversifying the teaching profession, because it's the same way if you are a student in a classroom and you see no one at the head of the classroom who looks like you, you are far less likely to imagine yourself in that position. Imagine yourself dreaming big and pursuing that goal. So that is another one of our primary missions, is to make sure that we are diversifying the teaching profession across the state.
Across the state, yes. Is there, are there any statistics of how diversified the workforce is?
In Colorado, yeah. So roughly half of the state's student population identifies as non-white. Only 13% of Colorado educators identify as an educator of color. Now, it gets even worse, if that's possible, when you drill down into specific demographic groups. So, for example, over 4% of the state's student population identifies as Black, while only 1.6% of Colorado educators identify as Black. It definitely makes me think about my experience when I was a teacher. I often think back to a student I had who I once asked my students to write down, just as an activity when they came into class, write down 10 things you like about yourself, right? I didn't ask them to turn it in, but at the end of the day, one of my most challenging students had to put her list on my desk, and it said, number 1, nothing. Number 2, nothing. Number 3, nothing. All the way to 10. And it's easy to think about, wow, if she had someone at the front of her classroom who truly understood her experience, who looked like her, who validated her experience, would it have been easier for her to have found something she loves about herself? There are myriad stories like that across the state, across the country, and so it is really critically important that we have a teacher workforce that mirrors the student population.
Yes, and I myself could testify to that. You know, I migrated to this country at the age of 18. Had to go back to high school because came from a Francophone country, no English at all. But I was in Summit County, Breckenridge.
Wow.
So you could already imagine how the population may be out there. And there was only one black teacher who was an African American, although I was African. So just seeing that, and he was a lot of support.
It made a difference.
Like emotional and moral support, and it made a great deal of difference.
And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you had that educator, and I also just want to stress that diverse educators are helpful for folks who don't identify as students of color too. My first black teacher I had in college, and so to think about the extent to which I wasn't tapping into just incredible amounts of diversity, linguistic diversity, racial diversity, differences of experiences in the world. Every student deserves that. Every student should have that.
Yes, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And you know, one of the things that I personally believe in is that we live in a world that is so crazy to where it's difficult for us to agree on facts, right? And so the next thing we have to that is our perspectives, because those are our perspectives are informed by our personal life. And so the more people you get to know, because people come from different walks of life.
Absolutely.
Each of one of them have their own perspective. They may, you know, if you're exposed to more languages, more cultures, more people from different, so you get those perspectives, and that's better. And the more perspectives you have, you know, the more situations you can look at from all these different perspectives,
right? I mean,
and be able to solve those problems.
Creates open minds, totally. And the students of Colorado deserve to have a diverse teacher workforce. In positive news, just last week, thanks to Representative Ricks, Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez, and Senator Fields, a House Bill 211010, if you all want to look it up, passed, and it is on its way to the governor's desk, which is very exciting, and it creates a workforce that will study the barriers to creating a diverse educator workforce, and it also it requires the state to disaggregate data from teacher preparation programs of their graduates based on gender and race, so that we are actually tackling the right problem. You mentioned facts. We need to actually know what the issues are and where the problems exist in order to address the problem most competently.
Yes, we love Nakwida Ricks here. So she made history this year. And, so thank you to her and her colleagues for doing that work, because that's great work. So now that we've talked about this, and this has been here for a while, what was the factor that not perhaps made us realize, because we've all seen it, but what was the factor that made all these organizations come together and say, it's time?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I think that Colorado is lucky because there are teach.org outfits, I guess you could say, in other states as well. So we already had a model of, oh, this is working, this is effective. If you actively provide resources for folks who are interested in the profession, coaching, application fee reimbursements, will provide money to pay for application fees, scholarship resources, and information on all the teacher preparation programs in a state. Colorado was lucky because we just got to kind of model what we do after other states that already had working models. So there's a Teach Connecticut. If you have community members in North Carolina, there's a Teach North Carolina. But I'm definitely focused on Colorado. Lucky me.
Well, lucky us for having you focus on us and our kids. And you know, one of the things that we do or that we believe in here is that we believe that parents and kids are actually an important part of education, because nobody knows your kids more than you do.
Certainly, of course.
Nobody knows what they need more than you do, because you know them. But those kids also should have a voice in what their education in what their education is. And I see that, you know, having all these teachers and all these resources could actually play a big part in helping these kids and these families.
I think so too, and I appreciate you bringing up the role of parents. It's one of my biggest regrets that when I was teaching, I don't think I worked hard enough to actively create a safe and comfortable place for those parents of kids to come, especially those parents from other countries who it's their first time experiencing a school in this country. It is a school's responsibility to create a culture and an environment that is welcoming to those parents. And I think that is another reason for a diverse educator workforce, to make sure that parents know that their voices truly matter in their kids' educational experience. And when it comes to students, I could not agree more. I mean, our students are often the ones with the best ideas.
Yes.
And so I think that's another thing I was thinking about, Amadou, just the other day. I was listening to a webinar of black male educators talking about their experiences, and one of these men commented on how no one had, among his teachers, no one had said to him, "Hey, I think you'd be a great teacher." So there's also a responsibility among educators to profess the beauty of their profession, to really advocate for teaching, to say, hey, you're brilliant, you should be a teacher. So I'm hopeful that also Teach Colorado can inspire educators to do that. Through ALG, I have been really lucky to connect with several educators who are absolutely incredible, Dr. Ann Kiki being among them. And I've learned quite a bit about just how challenging it regularly is to not feel like anyone is listening to you. And so Teach Colorado also really works to elevate the voices of educators of color, educators from diverse backgrounds and diverse experiences, to make sure that they know that their voices truly matter too.
Yes, thank you. And I think one of the reasons why that is important is because, you know, it is difficult for students to relate to somebody that don't look like them, but it's also the same experience for the parent.
Yes,
or
exactly.
It takes a teacher who comes from that background to understand what the parents may be going through and what the kid may be going back home to be able to intervene and make sure that the parents are engaged in their kids' education.
Could not agree more. And I actually, we hosted an event last year called Be the Change, the Impact of Black Educators and How You Can Join the Profession. And if it's okay with you, I did bring I'm going to whip my phone out real quick, which is terrible. But I did take a picture of a quote that one of the participants in this panel shared. She is, her name is Dr. Precious Simonette, and she is a high school English teacher in Miami. So I can get on board with Miami. And her quote was, black teachers are needed in classrooms because we have to be there to breathe life into our kids. We have to be there to let them know that they are loved. We have to be there to remind them that they are beautiful, that they are important, that they are worthy, and that they are not inferior. And so I think Teach Colorado is really trying to do the best it can to you know, inspire folks to become other Dr. Precious Simonettes.
Well, yes, I think that there's nothing to add on that quote.
I know. I'm like, I need to just have that in my phone always. Thank you.
You actually just need to print that and
wall.
have it on a wall.
I
because I mean, well, it's you know, it's been a great show already, and thank you so much for all the great work that you do, because it's just amazing. And if you're out there and you're thinking of becoming a teacher, because we need it. I think that's we need more teachers for the education of our kids, but also for the betterness of our community. We keep saying that every single day. This is not work that we want to do for the community, but it's work that we have to do with the community. We believe in working with the community and doing this work with you, and that we can come together and do this work. And every one of us, we all have to do our part. And so, if for you that is, you know, participating in the education education of our kids and you want to become a teacher, reach out to ALG. We'll connect you to Teach Colorado. Reach out to Teach Colorado directly. We can give you added information, and also it'll be so much help to you. So, before we actually end this a little bit, let's talk about, do you guys have any events, any program that you're putting together in the near future?
It's a great question. So I was glad you brought it back to what our site offers, because I do think there are several things I really want to mention. One is, in addition to all the information on all the teacher preparation programs in the state, coaching, application fee reimbursements if folks apply to a teacher prep program after subscribing to Teach Colorado. We do host events with our partnering teacher preparation programs. We just had 2 this month with Relay Graduate School of Education and Western Colorado University. We are hopeful that we will continue those events, but we also have an events page on our site that school districts and teacher preparation programs can post their events regularly, so that if they have a recruiting fair, let's say Douglas County is interested in hiring teachers, they might post an event for come learn more about Douglas on our site. So our events page is wonderful. We also have a job board on our site that is, it's a series of all the links to all the job boards for all 178 districts in Colorado. There are 178 districts in Colorado. That's a lot of districts, right? What's amazing is that over half of them have 500 students or fewer. So it speaks to really where we need teachers. We certainly need teachers in urban environments, and we certainly need teachers, elementary teachers, but we also really have shortages in particular areas, in rural communities in Colorado, in STEM fields, bilingual education, and I know there are people listening who speak multiple languages, and science and math, you know, all of those STEM and special education. How could I forget special education? So our site also tries to connect folks to those open positions as much as possible. Another thing I should highlight is that if folks listening have a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited college or university, and that's something Teach Colorado can help you determine, there is a pathway to becoming a teacher in the state where you can get a job at a school district and then go through what's called an alternative teacher preparation program during your first year in the classroom, allowing you to have a full-time teacher salary and learn the craft as you go. That is unique to Colorado. Not every state has that opportunity for folks. So if for those of you on the line who have a bachelor's degree and want to talk about becoming a teacher tomorrow, I'm here for you.
I'm telling you, this is a one-stop have it all.
Yes.
It's all there.
Yes,
it's from just realizing, you know, waking up just from that dream of, oh, I want to be a teacher, to all the way from becoming a teacher. So please do reach out. Let's make sure that we are all doing our parts in the within to make sure that we are educating our kids and doing that work. So. Let's talk about the importance, because we all know the importance of the work that you're doing. We just talked about all of that. Why is it important for your organization and organizations that do work like that to collaborate with organizations like African Leadership Group and community-based organizations to get that information out there?
That's a great question, and I reached out to Papa very specifically because I have a list of organizations that do explicitly serve communities of color, and our goal at Teach Colorado is to make sure that as many of these organizations as possible are well connected with our resources, so we can provide as much support as possible. I did jot down a couple of other organizations going into this show. You know, there's Faith Bridge, there's obviously the NAACP chapters across the state, there's Black Educators Network, which is in Colorado Springs, and you can find them on Facebook. There are myriad organizations that do explicitly serve communities of color, and it's critically important for us to all work together to make sure that members of those communities are aware of the resources that are available to them. I mean, otherwise it could be that only those with internet access and who have, you know, parents who are telling them, oh, go look at this website that I heard about. We can't rely on that. We have to make sure that we are equitable in our outreach. So we are really actively trying to make sure we're out there as much as possible. We have a new PSA that is very inspiring. I always get a little teary-eyed whenever I watch it, but we've sent it to every TV and radio station in the state, and we are hopeful that that will help reach candidates as well from diverse diverse communities. And the other thing is, education is one of those fields that really does it not only does it rely on other sectors to support it, but it is critical in supporting those sectors. How are we going to create the doctors, the epidemiologists, the lawyers, the future teachers who are required to educate kids and to inspire kids if we don't work with all those sectors to inspire folks into the profession?
Thank you, and I really love that you would use the word equitable.
Yeah.
Because equity is a really important thing, especially when we talk about education, and sometimes we tend to, not to make the difference between equity and equality.
Huge
and when
difference.
it comes to education, it's actually really important that we make that difference, because obviously people come from different backgrounds, and a lot of that plays into the resources that they
Absolutely.
know, right? If you do not know that it's there's no way that you can benefit from it.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we have to go an extra mile to make sure that, all people have access to that. So thank you so much for that. And those are great organizations that you listed. The NAACP, we work with all their branches. The great Fifth Bridge of Senator Colin, which is also a great organization. And he's also another friend of the African Leadership Group, doing great work. So thank you to all.
You are amazing, Amadou. You all are awesome. African Leadership Group is pretty impressive.
Thank you so much. All right, this has been fun.
A blast. Please have me back. What a good time this was.
Yes,
Thank you for having me.
I will have you back, because this was amazing. I know Uzi's gonna laugh if I say this is my favorite show, but it is one of my
You say that every time, huh? It was my favorite show, so there.
All right, there you have it then. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Amadou. I'm so grateful.
Last words, any message you want to send to the community?
Please become a teacher. We need you. TeachColorado.org is totally ready to help you become the educator you were born to be.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much once again for joining us for this Monday. This was another episode of your show, the ALG Weekly. We will be back not next Monday. We will be off this Monday because it is Memorial Day, I believe. All right, great. So before I leave you, though, I just want to say that we are hosting another COVID vaccine clinic. I know we just hosted one. We just hosted this first dose and second dose, but in the meantime, it was approved for kids from 12 to 16. That is the Pfizer vaccine, and we really want to make sure that our kids are vaccinated. People within our community are vaccinated before they are able to go back to school next year. We do not want to send our kids back to school without them being vaccinated, but we also know that within our community sometimes there is a lot of misinformation, and so parents may not trust sending their kids to school to be vaccinated. So we are hosting that and having it here within the community. So if you have any kids that are from 12 to 16, but it's also open, we are just prioritizing kids and students within our community this time, and that is Saturday, June 5th. This Saturday, June 5th. And so the link is already available on our website, that is usalg.org. You can please go ahead to our website, usalg.org. You can also go to any of our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. You can find the registration link and make sure that you are registered to be here on June 5th. So we'll see you then on June 5th, and before then I'll be back here with other great community members to bring you resources that our community need. So thank you. Have